So the House version of the One Big Beautiful Act changes health insurance subsidies. Obviously, this hasn't been passed as law yet, but there's a lot of negotiations going on. And one of the things I want to focus on today is about this idea that a bunch of people are going to lose health insurance. And it's very important for younger retirees to pay attention to this. We're talking people who are retired and need health insurance, but are not yet 65. So they're not on Medicare, but they're on the Affordable Care Act. They don't get it through employer because they're retired. They get it on their own. And the changes that are happening might make this much more expensive for them. Let me bring in my co-host, Tony Shore. Tony, we're talking health insurance. You know how I can go on rants, right?
Oh, yeah.
And what I've seen lately is a lot of headlines about um, millions of people losing health insurance as a
Mm.
result of the proposed changes on the One Big Beautiful Bill. And so I want to talk about those changes. And well, and the last time I mentioned it, we did a show on the One Big Beautiful Bill that passed the Senate. We talked about what their changes were, and I talked specifically about how retirees are impacted by that. I want to focus on the health insurance part of the changes that are currently being negotiated. But in that last show, I said I was going to try and get Donald Trump on the podcast.
Yeah.
And what do you think happened to my efforts to try and get him on?
I think you failed miserably, or is that?
I failed, but not miserably. I want
Ah,
you to listen to I want you to listen to this voicemail that I got. Okay,
awesome.
this is from my phone at the office. I got this. Can you hear that ringing?
Your call has been
Okay,
forwarded to an
so
automatic voice
this
message
I want the
system.
listeners to
At the
listen to
tone,
this. This
please
was my
record
attempt
your
to get
message. When
President
you have
Trump on the
finished
phone.
recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hello, Dolphin Financial Group. It's you know who, the best. Believe me. I got your invite to join your retirement podcast. A fantastic show. Really tremendous. Very good, folks. I love it. I do. But I got to decline politely because my schedule's packed. Nobody's got a busier schedule than me. Also, I'm not retiring anytime soon, despite what the radical liberal left is saying, those losers. I don't want to discourage people from planning their golden years with you. Now that I think about it, I might give you the phone number of certain people in Congress. They need to retire. Get them out. Maybe you can help some of those so called fake news people retire to keep up the great work. Your clients are winning bigly in retirement. They must be so tired of winning. A great podcast. Make retirement great again. Dolphin Financial Group. That's what they're doing. Give me a call back soon. I'd love to chat.
So just so we're clear, everybody,
That is amazing.
that was not Donald Trump. That was a parody. That was
Okay.
not the
Okay.
real president.
Pretty good.
That was
Pretty good imitation then.
yeah, that was a friend of mine. And so yes, I did not get Trump's opinion on what's going on. Now, keep in mind, he hasn't said anything about this yet. He is not involved yet. The House of Representatives is dealing with this, and if you go on the headlines lately, you'll see it was beautiful, beautiful bill. They're saying that millions of people are going to lose coverage, and I want to make this point. There's a big difference between losing health insurance coverage and choosing not to pay for health insurance coverage. Okay. It's a subtle difference, right? And I'm going to get into some specific examples, but here's a quote from the CBO, Congressional Budget Office. I'm going to put the link down below if you want to read it. Okay. But I read it. Here's a quote. The CBO estimates that the combined effects of these policies, two under current law and the others under HR1, which is the bill we're talking about here, would increase the number of people without health insurance by 16 million in 2020 by 2034.
Wow.
So what it's saying is 16 million people are going to lose health insurance. And if you go on CNBC or all the news sites, it says millions are set to lose health insurance coverage. And I just don't like that terminology because it's not accurate. As an example, if I, as a retiree, let's say a married couple, 61 years old, each 61 years old, Affordable Care Act insurance through their marketplace, whether it's a state marketplace or the federal, and their subsidy goes from $1,000 a month to $500 a month. Their subsidy gets cut in half as a result of these laws that are passed. Do they lose health insurance coverage?
No, but their costs double.
Their costs double, or their costs their costs increase by $500 a month, and then they decide that's just too expensive. We can't afford it, and they drop it. They don't lose coverage. They voluntarily drop it.
Yeah, but
Hey, you're going to say it's semantics, Tony, but I'm not buying this stuff that is being sold.
You're picking out the lose and saying that's wrong. Sure, you can say that's wrong, but the bill would cause people to not be able to afford to be on health insurance. Would you rather we said it that way?
Absolutely, I'd rather you say it that way.
16 million people will not be able to afford health care and health insurance because of this.
I love that better because that allows us to address the
problem. But they're both horrible. I mean, they're both talking about the same problem, basically.
No, they're not. They're because the way they're saying it, this bill is going to take away health insurance from people. That's not true. They're just stopping paying for other people to have health insurance. I want to address the issue as why is health insurance so darn expensive? Right? That's the question that we need to address. Not how much do we want the government to subsidize it. So let's go through some of these points that are happening in the House right now that are changing health insurance and how it impacts retirees.
Sure.
Not on Medicare. Right. So we first have a work requirement. I talked about that in the previous show. They're expanding the age now, 19 years old to 64 years old. So you have to prove you can work or you can't work and qualify for an exemption from this work requirement in order to continue to get Medicaid. They're saying people are going to lose Medicaid, which is health insurance run by the states. They're saying, and the headlines are reading, everyone's going to lose Medicaid. The reason being because they're going to go through a work requirement. If they don't satisfy that, then yes, they technically are not going to be given the health insurance for free anymore. They're going to have to actually pay for it if they don't qualify for it.
Right.
That's different than losing. Again.
Right. No,
with this,
I
actually having to pay.
Right. I agree with you, but this is a joke, this one, because work requirements on Medicaid, I actually laughed out loud when I read that because I know a lot of people on Medicaid because of the industry my wife and kids are in, healthcare and retirement care and long-term care. And because I have a number of relatives in long-term care on Medicaid, the idea that anyone I've ever known that's using Medicaid could work a actual job is laughable. Typically, Medicaid is to cover long-term, full-time nursing care. Typically, right? That's the main. That's the main benefit of. For younger people, though, even the younger people that are on Medicaid typically have some horrific disease that doesn't allow them or disability that doesn't allow them to work.
Right. And so they're gonna try and qualify them with an exemption from the work requirements. They're trying to do is eliminate the potential fraud and abuse of the system.
How many people are using Medicaid and that could work? I
don't know.
Show me one. I don't think this is. I think this is one of those. We're fixing a problem that doesn't exist. I don't know why they would put work requirement. I just don't understand this one at all.
And I agree that there's not enough data that I've seen yet to say this is the exact number of people. But at the same time, it makes sense to me to say, let's have some work requirement so that people aren't just getting it because they don't have any income.
Right. You might as well say it.
Not to work.
just in case somebody would try to game the system, you might as well say it. But I just don't think that's really happening out there. I mean, obviously, in the entire country, there's millions of people on Medicaid. Is one person, maybe a couple people could work, possibly. But I just don't think this is an issue. But right, to say they're going to bump people off of Medicaid because of this, or people are going to lose their Medicaid coverage, is false, because at least the people I know on Medicaid aren't going to lose it because they don't have the ability to work, so they'll be
and they'll
exempted.
qualify, right, and they'll be exempt, right. So it's just follow the rules and you'll be fine.
Sure.
Qualify, earn it, deserve it, right? So you could see the other side, which is I want people to get it only if they deserve it, right? But let's talk about the next issue, which is reduced subsidies. So the enhanced subsidies for the Affordable Care Act was part of the 2021 American Rescue Plan Act Biden's administration passed. Then it was extended through 2025. So through this year by the Inflation Reduction Act, again under Biden, right? So these were an extension of subsidies. What it fundamentally did was it raised the level of income you can have to get a subsidy. So more and more people were getting it. Those are going to be eliminated if we don't do anything. So those are going to expire. And the new House bill suggests not re-upping these things. So who's really going to get hurt by that? Ironically, it's going to be typically right-leaning people that are not on the Biden agenda, but more on the Trump agenda. They're going to get hurt more by this because the person that this was helping, they're not eliminating subsidies altogether. They're just eliminating subsidies. They're increasing the cap. So that's going to be gone. So people, as an example, we'll call the cutoff about, we'll look at this. A typical family, I put some stats here. Typical family of 4 with income of $65,000 will pay $2,400 more a year without these enhanced premium tax credits. So we're looking at a middle class. If retirees in their 60s, there's a cliff. They called it the insurance subsidy cliff, the ACA subsidy cliff. If you make $1 more than the dollar limit that's set, I think it used to be $65,000 for a married couple. If you make $65,001, you get zero subsidy. If you make $65,000 or less, you get a subsidy. So that's a cliff. Now, who's falling in that cliff? $65,000 is not someone scraping by. Well, it could be, depending on where you live. But people below that threshold aren't going to be impacted by this. It's people above that threshold, people that are self-employed or business owners, small business owners that have to pay for their own health insurance. They don't have big company paying for it, subsidizing it.
I know a guy like that, Dan Wendell.
Right. So those increase in subsidies are really going to hit the middle class, and it phases out after a certain amount. So the rich aren't getting subsidies, but the rich have their health insurance covered by their employer or their something like that. So ironically, these subsidies that are going to be eliminated are hurting middle class or 50-50. It's not picking on any one political party. So it'll be interesting to see if that changes. But my problem with this is that retirees, and I'm saying early retirees, early in quotes, because 60 shouldn't be considered early to retire, but in our society it is, because you don't get Medicare until 65. They're going to be hurt, and they need to be paying attention to this. And this is going to be, we'll do another show once this is settled about Medicare.
A lot of people are going to be hurt by that. I mean, do you have $2,400 more a year? You're just going to pay. I mean, that's not good.
Right. But what's also not good is to say that we'll call it 5 million. 5 million people who see this increase are going to lose health insurance. They're not going to lose health insurance, Tony. To say that, again, is disingenuous. They're going to have to pay more, and many will choose to just go without, but they didn't lose it. They're just paying more. And I know it's a subtle difference.
Not just paying more, Dan. If the increase is actually enough to where they can't afford it.
Yes.
Let's not
Let's say
devalue
that, though.
that.
Let's say that, though. Let's say this 5%,
Don't say
4%,
they're
whatever this is.
just paying more. It's like saying they just might not be able to afford healthcare. That's terrible. They won't be able to afford healthcare, and that's not good.
No one
right?
can afford healthcare now. Most people can't afford the current pricing.
That's
So
why
the
we have to
problem,
have these subsidies, and
I
cutting the
don't agree with
subsidies
that.
are going to hurt.
No, I don't think we increase subsidies, the government handouts to pay for this. So taxpayers are paying for this. I say we attack the process and the system in general, the
Well,
health insurance, and say, let's
sure.
fix it so it's more affordable. Why is health insurance so expensive?
You're going to
Why?
fix the healthcare system? I mean,
I'd rather
nobody's
do
been
that.
able to do it in 50 years.
Because we haven't been feeling the pain because the government's been subsidizing it. Very similar to the student loan issue. If you don't subsidize student loans, students are still going to take out loans because they value college. But if you put the college on the hook to have to collect back, they're going to
True.
be more selective, and maybe they
Yes.
won't keep raising their prices because artificially the government's backing it. Same with health insurance. If
Agreed.
you're not going to get paid, if the doctors aren't going to get paid because default, maybe they'll figure out a pricing structure or a way to improve the overall costs so that it's more affordable for people. But if you have the government just giving more money to people, then why don't they just keep raising the prices, which is what they do. So anyway, all right.
Well,
I
it's
had to
more
get that out.
systemic than the health insurance companies are part of the problem, and the healthcare costs themselves, hospitals, doctors, medical supplies. So there's more than one. There's multiple problems in the healthcare system.
Correct.
It's a little more straightforward with the college issue. The great college ripoff is what I call it, where colleges keep raising their prices to astronomical places because they know that the government will just keep subsidizing these loans, and kids will still be going. The pressure to go to college is there. That's a little more straightforward than the healthcare industry is. Wow. I mean, you've got doctors, you've got hospitals, you've got medical supply companies, you've got the big pharmaceutical companies, and then you've got the health insurance companies.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to name names, United Healthcare, but there are problems here, right?
There are problems, and I'd
Yeah.
like to address those problems instead of just saying it's so expensive the government's going to just bail out the average American,
Yeah, I see
which
your
is becoming
point.
not even average. It's becoming more and more. Everybody's got to get bailed out because
Yeah.
the system's broken. So
It is.
I would rather the headlines focus on the House is not having people lose coverage. The House decisions are making coverage so much more unaffordable because they're no longer subsidizing it. And then maybe the shift away from what Congress is doing and more on what the insurance, the healthcare providers are doing. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to move on because there's some other points that I want to make.
Sure. I
They're
didn't mean to.
shortening.
I have to poke you a little bit. I have to poke you.
I know, no, this is good. I get animated by this because this is one of the, if not the biggest hold up for people to retire is what about health insurance?
Yeah.
And so when the government and the health insurance industry doesn't allow for it to be affordable for people to retire early, that they're forced to work so that
Yep.
their company has to subsidize it, which is really what's happening. Someone's
Yep.
always subsidizing health insurance.
Yes.
Why can't we just pay for it on our own? Anyway, they're shortening the enrollment period in this House bill from November 1st to December 15th instead of till January 15th. And people are up in arms. Oh my God, we can't make the health decision. Every company under the sun that has annual enrollment, it's a 1 month period. You're not sitting there for 2 months, 2.5 months figuring this stuff out. This shouldn't be a huge deal. I don't know why people are making such a big deal about it. You should know your stuff. And the problem is because people are waiting to last minute to try and get a little extra out of it. I don't think this is a huge deal and it shouldn't be. This isn't going to force people to lose coverage because they can't get their enrollment decision in a month and a half instead of two and a half
Well,
months.
we're procrastinators. Nobody likes that.
Right,
We all want
right.
more
So
time. We all want more
don't say
time.
we're losing. Right, but no, let's end it.
Yeah.
We can make adult decisions quickly.
Sure.
Automatic re-enrollment ends. So as I don't know if you know this, Tony, but if you're on an ACA plan, you get automatically enrolled the next year in the same plan, and you get the subsidy, the same subsidy. All this bill is saying is you got to redo it. We got to redo it. So what they're saying is people aren't going to do it. They're going to lose coverage because they don't re-up. They don't go through the process again.
But why end automatic re-enrollment? Why do that?
Because, Tony, what happens is people don't go back and report their income. You're supposed to report your income. What's going to be next year? You got to make a guess. You have to have a strategic conversation about it. And people just automatically re-enroll. It's not hard. If things don't change, you click a button, say no, it's done. But what's happening is people just go through the process, they forget, and then they don't do it. And then, oh, I just got a raise. You didn't report it. And now they're getting more subsidy when they don't deserve it. Right. And then the government's got to claw back that money. And so get people active in it. It shouldn't be hard to once a year review and renew or change your health insurance. Right. Shouldn't why should everything be automatic? Make it too easy for people to get complacent and then miss deadlines, miss a chance to update their situation. I don't know. It's not a big deal to me. I think this is a good thing, but I'm a planner. This is what I do. So I don't mind revisiting it. No proof, no subsidy. So, when you apply for an ACA subsidy, let's say you're a 62-year-old couple, you just retired and you're like, I don't really know what our income's going to be. We're going to pull for trips and from our IRA. We might do a Roth conversion. I don't know. Well, how much do we say we're going to make? You have to guess. Right? You have to guess. If you have a salary, it's easy, but usually your employer is covering it and you're not getting an ACA plan. When your income is different, you have to take a wild guess, not a wild, an educated guess. And what people have been doing is they just say, yeah, I'm going to do that. And they don't prove it. They don't have to prove it until April, say. So they get 4 months of health insurance with on a handshake. Right. So they're receiving the subsidy because you said you're going to make 20,000 of income when in fact you're making 100,000. So you get all this extra from the government and then you prove it and then they drop you and then they pay. No, they're saying no more of that. We want it. You got to prove it. And so what are people going to do? Well, now I have to prove it within that month. Yeah. Yeah. So just get your stuff together early. That's all it's saying. They're not, this can be tough though, because sometimes, tax forms don't come out right away in a timely fashion. So the burden goes back on the person, but I don't mind it. I don't like people getting extra benefit without actually deserving it, because this is how people game the system. They automatically re-enroll, then they go through January, they're healthy, and then they don't pay the bill. Oh, I didn't want it anyway. And then they used to be able to get right back on a plan in February when they got sick. So they eliminated that timeline, because that used to be how people really game the system. Now they're trying to do it again with subsidies. Again,
Well,
this is big. This is, laying down the hammer, Tony. I know it's not kind, but it's practical and it's fiscally responsible.
Yeah, I can see that. As long as there's an actual problem there. I mean, we have so many real problems. I mean, what's that going to gain? I wonder what the actual figures are on how much that will benefit the government to do that. You know what I mean? Is it, again, these are things that, they want to be able to say, we're not going to let people gain the system or get anything they don't deserve. They're so adamant about nobody getting something they don't deserve that they're making laws that I don't know that, what's the,
it's the broken windows theory, right? So if you clean up the little gaps, overall, it should, put a more formal system in place that people will respect. This is another example. If you get a subsidy because you estimate your income to be a lot less than it really is, you say, I'm going to make $10,000 or I'm going to make $40,000 for the year, and you get a subsidy based on that, and then you make $200,000. And you may have known you were going to make $200,000 the whole time.
Sure.
So you've overpaid. You've been receiving payments from the government. The subsidies are way too high for your income. In fact, you may not have even qualified for a subsidy, yet you were getting $800 a month toward health insurance. You got to pay it back, right, when you do your taxes. Well, there used to be a cap. Oh, well, you only have to pay back so much, and the government would just eat it.
Mhm.
And people would take advantage of this. I don't like that. So now they're saying you have to pay back the entire excess subsidy. Seems fair to me. Now, is that going to be an undue burden on people? Yeah, it's just like if you owe the IRS money, they would garnish your wages, and President Biden lowered that to like a 10% at most,
Sure.
and then instead of 50. I don't know. I just feel like if Social Security overpays you, then and you owe the money, and it's clear you do, you shouldn't be able to pay it back over 40 years. You should have to pay it back because it's not fair. This is about fairness again. Last but not least, Tony, and this is where you can technically say people are actually losing coverage because they're going to eliminate subsidies for illegal immigrants. Believe it or not, you can get health insurance in the Affordable Care Act if you're not a citizen of the United States. You get subsidies to pay for it. A lot of them don't have any income. They might not have anything. So they're getting health insurance at no cost to them, but cost to you and I. And so eliminating that. Now, there are some that are lawfully present here, dreamers or what are they, DACA, or people that are allowed to be here. Those people are also going to be not allowed to get a subsidy. So I don't know. I think this you could easily say this is eliminating health insurance for some people, and you'd be right. This would be a true loss for those people. But then it begs the question: should they be getting a subsidy or health insurance, a health insurance subsidy based on taxpayer dollars to begin with? This is a question, and I'm not going to debate the merits of it, but I just wanted to point that out.
Sure.
I can make the case on either side, but this is a big sticking point for a lot of people that say, why should someone that's never put into the system, that's come here illegally, get free health insurance when my family's paying $2,400 a month for health insurance?
Yeah.
Anyway, Let's conclude. Changes to the ACA subsidies and qualifications will make it more expensive for many. Just the elimination of those extension of subsidies, the expansion of subsidies, those are going to be gone, probably. And if they are, it's going to be more expensive for a lot of people, middle class mostly, right? And as a result, many will probably either have to just pay more and eat it, or they'll choose not to renew, or they'll go to less coverage, or they might just forego it altogether. I'd rather that be the headline. Health insurance has become too expensive for 10 million people than 10 million people losing health insurance because evil Republicans are adding undue burden. No.
Well, I haven't seen that headline, but
well, it'll be there. Believe me, it'll be there. But I don't care what the headlines are as long as they're just talking about the real problem, which is that the underlying costs of health insurance in this country are out of control, and we need to figure out why. And putting a Band-Aid on it and having the government just subsidize it while we, ignore it does not help anybody. It hurts across the board. So that's it. That's my rant, Tony. There's my rant.
It's a good rant.
I'm going to try and get Trump back on to talk about this.
That would be great. That would be awesome. The fact that Trump actually left you a voicemail or someone
fake news, Tony. That's not true. I don't need Trump coming down and suing me for saying that I misrepresented. That was not him. That was not the current president.
All right,
Tony. Thanks for a good show and humoring me and not letting me rant a little bit. We'll catch everyone next week.
All matters discussed in today's show are for informational purposes only.
This show is not investment advice.
Dan Riddle nor Dolphin Financial Group are affiliated or endorsed by any government agency.
Investment advisory services are offered through Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc., a registered investment advisor in the state of Florida.
Insurance products and services are offered through Dolphin Insurance, Inc.
Dolphin Wealth Management Inc. and Dolphin Insurance Inc. are affiliated companies doing businesses as Dolphin Financial Group.
You should talk to someone at Dolphin Financial Group before implementing any of these strategies or ideas.